It says I am live. Welcome. Hello, Brenda. Hello, Carol. Maybe you can't hear me yet. Now you should be able to. Hey, Mike. Welcome in, buddy. How are you in Canada tonight? Yeah, you like that? I got a little carried away on top, but that's okay. It'll grow back. I'm not that worried about it. It's cooler. It's less. I told her I didn't really care as long as it wasn't getting down my. It was starting to get roll over and get in my eyes when I was sleeping and get my face and bug me. Thanks, Mike. I did it for you, buddy. Yeah, almost high and tight, not quite. Mark probably wouldn't approve. He's always talking about getting his high and tights everywhere. He does it himself, so I can't. I don't try to do mine. Brenda, I try to get Brenda to do mine. I almost went to a real barber this week, though. Yes, my door's up. Hang on a minute. Be right back, guys. Okay. Well, I won't lie to anybody. The old gluteus maximus is hurting tonight. Both sides. Diana is not saying hi to Mike. Make note of that. Let me write that down. There's one of those things that you're probably not supposed to have or show on it on YouTube. I better be careful with that. I don't blame you. My door's now closed, by the way. Is that better? Well, there's Dean. Chingachgook. Did I put two G's in it? No. If you don't know that name, then you've not read your leather stocking tales. Or maybe you haven't seen the movie with Daniel Day Lewis in it called what? What was that called? Why can I not remember that? How did they name that? Oh, come on, Tim. Work brain. No, not the Indiana Jones movie. I don't care about your Indiana Jones movie right now. I need to know what I'm thinking about. And I want to ask you about that. So hold that thought. What what did they call? Uh, Hang on a minute. Oh, Last of the Mohicans. God Almighty, that's who it was. So, see, I see. I'm starting to detect just a small amount of conflict there in the Cabral living room. I don't know about anybody else. Yes, we did. We'll we'll do this show in honor of Momo. Hey, Doug, welcome in. So, Dean, have you never seen The Last of the Mohicans? Even if you hadn't read the book, surely you've seen the movie. Well, she was getting old, and bless her heart, she was born of difficult circumstances. They got her, Jennifer got her in part because she had some issues. She'd been rescued from a puppy mill situation, and they'd overbred the females, and that started having problems with the pups, and so she had a leg issue, and oh, you should see it, Dean. It's an excellent movie, and it was filmed not far from here. In fact, some of it was filmed on this side of the line. Really, really good movie. Anyway, Chingachgook is Uncas's father, the last two Mohicans. And she had, but she was a good dog. She didn't like Philip. Bless his heart. Bless her. For some reason, every time Philip came over and she was here, which was not that terribly often, but it seems like invariably, if she was here, Phil came by for something, and she would start barking at him, and she would not quit till he left, and it just drove him crazy. I think if Phil had been a mean person, he would have punted her across the room many times. Yes, it should be, Dean. It should be. That's an excellent movie. Well, at least I think so. But I've been a fan for many, many years, even long before that movie came out. So, how was the Indiana Jones epic final adventure, Mike or Diana? I'll let you choose who answers. I don't know if has anybody else been to see it. We haven't yet. I thought about it. It actually crossed my mind the night it came out. But I have a hard time making myself go if I think it's going to be really busy. Movie isn't bad. Seemed to be missing something though. Maybe about 40 years age on the star, perhaps. I guess it will do that, Dean. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking it wouldn't. But yeah, it should. I'd like to go see it on the big screen, though. That was the thing about the first Indiana Jones movie. I'll never forget when it first came out. One of my coworkers came in to work the next day, and he was just raving about Indiana Jones, and he kept saying, "You got to go see it. Don't wait, and don't wait until the VC the not DVDs. We didn't have those. The VHS. Don't wait till it comes out on VHS." He said, "Go to the movie. You got to see it on the big screen the first time." And he was right. I mean, I was glad we did. Oh, he was good. Side jokes. Oh, okay. Hmm. What did Mike say? You, th- you think it needed some nudity, huh? Well, that would put a little more zing in it. Boy, I see a little. Anybody besides me see disappointment on this little smiley face here? I got you, Mike. We'll go see that. I'll go with you to see that version. Funny thing you should say that, though. I always thought I was just my mind went to a whole other place there about nudity and thinking about Indiana Jones running through the jungles naked. That's oh wait a minute, guys. I hope I'm not making everybody seasick. Camera's not loose. I wanted to adjust it. I've never figured, and I still have never figured out why people want to go on to a television show and be naked and afraid and be naked out in the jungle or the woods. I mean, one of the first things early man did was figure out a way to cover himself, not because he didn't want to be naked, because he didn't want every stick or bush and tree bark rubbing the hide off of him all the time. Oh, that's the eye roll emoji. Okay, well, I get that, but I think there was some disappointment there too. that's all I was going by. Tim swears he can hear my eyes roll in the back of my head. Well, yeah. Carol, can Danny hear yours roll? If you've been married as long as we have, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a little click, and then it almost sounds like a pinball, or not a pinball, but a slot machine whirring, and then clunk when they hit the back. Tim, be right back. Hi, everybody. I am back. Diana says, I don't get it either. Too many bugs to be naked. I know. And I'm going to assume they're not allowed to make clothes because none of them ever do. Or, I mean, I don't think. I've never seen the show except for commercials. And, everything's blurred out. So I'm assuming they're not wearing anything. They're nudists have always kind of. I've never quite understood the whole idea. I mean, I get laying naked on the beach or swimming naked. I mean, there's I guess a place for that, but out in the woods hiking or carrying a backpack or just being out in the woods like these people are, it's no place to be without clothes. You're going to come home the biggest. You're going to look like you've been in a cat fight. Let's put it that way. I wear clothes. I've been in the woods when I've been ripped up and everything else, and I was wearing clothes. So I don't know. That part I never did understand that part. I had to check something there, guys. Sorry. I was trying to remember exactly what my thumbnail said. Chat is disconnected. Hey, are we back? Hey, guys. Hopefully, no, I'm still not back over there. Somebody let me know when you can see me again or hear me or something. Oh my goodness, that's a terrible image. That looks so much better on my end. And I mean, that's saying a lot. I don't get it, Dean. What do you mean? Everything is good on this end, so I didn't go away on your end at all, Carol. You sat here, you could hear my ramblings, and because I went dead on this end, the spinning wheel of death and the whole bit. The screen went black. You guys never lost the picture. Wow. Okay, well, never mind. I guess it must have been mine, but I can't believe it wouldn't have gone dead on your end. I get maybe the delay and the lag did that. You'll see me and hear me. Well, I would certainly hope so. Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike, put your ear real close to your telephone. She let me get some ice cream tonight. Well, technically it's custard, but you know what I mean. Hopefully nobody heard that but Mike. You just had Mickey bars. Oh my. Now, Brenda, that doesn't sound nice. You didn't say that, in any way apologetically. Oh, you're going to have ice cream again. Okay. Well, that's weird because I went blank on this end and the spinny thing in black, and I couldn't see anything. And when it came back up on my other screen over here on YouTube, it was really blurry. Oh well. I have to admit, I wish I could go. I wish I was. There are times when I wish I was at the MK and I was having a Mickey bar. I think Brenda, correct me, but the first ice cream we may have ever had at Disney World, Magic Kingdom, because that's all there was a dairy type frozen treat, was a chocolate covered banana, maybe. Oh, of course you did. I've learned not to bring home. She never wants it. Mike, is this a problem at your house? If I ask her, does she want something, and I'm going to get some, little pints of ice cream or something, or no, I don't want any. I really don't like ice cream. And if I bring it home, she wants to know what's hers. I didn't get you any. You didn't want any. So I've learned. Yeah, we should do that, Mike. I've yet to buy a membership at Costco for some reason. When we got one, I was so excited. I thought, oh boy, we'll need to know all about Costco because we have friends in Atlanta. Just tell us all about the great things I got at Costco and how good it was, and how much better it was than Sam's Club and that kind of stuff. Which, if you don't have Sam's Club up your way, it's a Costco version of a Walmart. I mean, no, that's not right. It is to Walmart. It's Costco. It's a Walmart dressed up like a Costco. Oh, Mike, well, you're a nice guy. I mean, that's fine if they want it, but she never wants it until I bring it home. You don't have Sam's Club? I mean, you meant Sam's Club. I don't know how far around. Carol, do you guys have Sam's Club up your way? I'm not sure how far they got. I mean, Walmart's obviously around the world now, but I don't know if Sam's Club. I think Sam's Club came out down here before Sam Walton died, but I'm not positive. That's what I had, and I wish I had another one. What'd you have? Oh, the banana. I'm guessing you mean the frozen banana. We have Sam's and Costco memberships, but we haven't used our Costco much this year. Which one would you say? You got one of each in your there. Which one do you think is it? There's a superior version. I thought Sam's Club was the greatest thing in Army boots when it first came out, and then I don't know, it didn't. Over time, I guess we got tired of it. Used to buy tires there a lot though. They used to have good deals on truck tires. Mike, I only go to Walmart for my oil for my vehicles. I haven't been in a Walmart in years now, Mike. I quit going. But I used to get my oil there too. I used to have a heck of a deal. I used to run it's a blue synthetic oil. It's if you ask anybody, they'll tell you it's for trucks, big trucks. And it's a synthetic oil, and it comes in a big blue jug. I have to go out there and look at it now. It's been so long since I picked it up. And you used to be able to get it for $12 a gallon or thereabouts. And it was so much. Oh, Royal Purple's good oil. But I tell you what, I'd recommend the stuff I'm talking about. It's a Shell product. It's in a blue jug. It's synthetic. I've never, ever had an issue with it since I started running it. And I was having problems with some other oil. You let your chocolate ice cream melt a bit and cut up banana. Oh, yeah, she made her own sort of a banana chocolate ice cream sundae. Well, that's probably not a bad idea either, Carol. Well, never mind. I'm not going to say. Those are my people. I shouldn't be talking about them. Put full synthetic in both vehicles. Actually, every vehicle we've ever owned. That's good. How often do you change it, Mike? This may turn into an automotive maintenance show, guys. Just warn you. Well, Lottie Daw, Dean. Some people just, want to rub it in their faces. Carol, I thought Teddy was going to join me, but I don't guess you can see the chair, but it's empty. He's not even here tonight. I'll tell you where he's at. He's laying on the bed. I would say waiting on me, but he's found the bed now again, and he don't hardly get off of it. Sorry if Mike says every 5,000 miles on one, 35 on the turbo car because it needs to get oil all the time. You're saying it burns oil? What kind of turbo car, if I may ask? Not trying to get into your business, but 500 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers. Well, that's short. See, I quit doing that. I ran the best dinosaur oil I ever ran, I believe, was Texaco Haviland, and I ran it for 300,000 miles in my old pickup truck. Never had an oil-related failure or problem in that truck ever, and it was still running. It was still going at 300,000, but I decided to sell it because I needed some air conditioner fixed, and I changed it every 3,000 miles. So I added that up one time, and I knew the numbers and how much money I'd spent on oil and filters changing it that often. Then I remembered that back in the day, my day, And when Mobil 1 first came out, they used to advertise it to last 25,000 miles between oil changes. So I thought about that. And then I got to reading manuals. If you read a car or a motorcycle manual, they don't tell you to change the oil that often. In fact, they tell you to change it double that, usually. And for example, my motorcycles were supposed to be changed every 6,500 miles. In fact, they said only a filter then. I don't change oil and not the filter, or not filters and not the oil. I think that's silly. So I would let it run a little further. I'd let it run at least to 6,000 miles, and then I'd change it. So double what I used to. And that's in a motorcycle, which some people think you shouldn't do that because the gearbox chops the oil up and it's a bunch of hoo-ha. But I started running that synthetic and I let it run and it worked fine. And then I started running it in our cars after my truck was gone. And I do believe it. But like our car says, 5,800 miles between oil changes. Motorcycle says 6,500 for a filter. I mean, why change it every 3,000 miles? If it blows up, I'm going to take the manual to them and say, look, this is what your engineers put in the book. And it should last that long. I thought about all the oil that was getting poured down the drain in places, and God knows where it was being emptied, because a lot of it wasn't being re-refined, I'm afraid. And I just decided that was a waste, so I stopped. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Use Mobil 1 for synthetic on the Buhog. Oh, you have a Buick Encore. Oh, okay. Because that's what it's recommended with the manufacturer. That's interesting. Look in their book. What's the manufacturer say for oil changes? Because it's a turbo car, you need to have good oil quality in it, or could you ruin the turbo? You're not going to ruin the turbo unless you run it to hell and back and not change anything. If you're in a desert environment where you're sucking in sand and grit and dirt into your car, okay, I'm probably not an expert, Mike, but I have run oil in airplanes for years and synthetic oils and jet engines for years, and I ran a lot of oil through cars and motorcycles. And I'm telling you, oil today is built at a much higher quality than it used to be. And a lot of these recommendations that we get from our best friend's dad, who was a mechanic for 400 years, are outdated. I really believe that. And I think you can go along. I mean, I would look at to be safe, I'd look at the manual and I'd see what the owner's manual that you got with the car says, and I would go with that. I'm not saying you should go longer than that, but I would go with that. Here's another clue. I would be willing to bet that every tractor trailer truck on the road today, interstates here, has a turbo on it. A lot of those guys run the I've almost said it, Delvar or whatever I ran in my bike in the Blue Jug, or they ran another Mobil oil called, maybe that was the Delvac. Anyway, they referred to that as the Million Mile Oil. They run that stuff, or did, in trucking tractors, 1,000,000 miles between oil changes. Now they change filters ever so often, and on diesel, they usually got at least two big filters. You probably know a lot more about diesels than I do, but they ran them for 1,000,000 miles, and they lasted and lasted and lasted. So if you can run it, I figure if you can run oil in a diesel tractor and trailer that's pulling loads and doing all that stuff and working as hard as they do, turboed, and you can run the oil 1,000,000 miles, 10,000 miles in your car is not going to hurt it. Now, you walked in when we were talking about oil changes, and we're not going to go over it unless Mike wants to. But, that's my opinion. And I've been doing that for a long time. The last 20 years on motorcycles and cars, that was my policy, and it never failed me. Yes, I got a haircut, and well, it looks okay. It's not in my eyes. Well, that's true. They do take a lot of oil, but still, to run it that long, I don't know. Like I said, you probably know more about that end than I do, but I think the thing that got me, Mike, as much as anything, was the fact that I really got to thinking about it was wasteful. I mean, we're trying to save fossil fuels and we're trying our best to, not have to drill in all the inappropriate places that everybody wants to drill in. And I just felt like I was pouring, well, literally pouring it down the drain. I wasn't pouring it down the drain, but I don't know where else it was going. Doug, you have fingers, right? Uh-oh. Hey, Doug. Hey, Garrett. I have to back up and see if we've got a conflict brewing or not. Tractor trailers. Garrett, you never call anymore. We got a country music song there. We're talking tractor trailers, pickup trucks, and Doug don't call, or Garrett don't call anymore. Anna says, Tim, we idle a lot because of the cold winter. That could maybe. Sometimes my car sits running for half an hour before I drive, and I only work 5 minutes away. Well, working 5 minutes away is harder than the idling, probably. So, Then apparently he made her take him to the movies. Idling. I would say the traffic stop and go is worse than the idling because you're just sitting there warming it up. But that's a good point. Up there that might be a whole nother matter. I just threw my opinion out there. Nobody really asked for it. Korean short ribs, my. Married with children. Wow, I can see it clear now. That's funny, Diane. I could give you points for that. Hey, Tim, did you see the link I sent you about an AI platform? No, I hadn't seen that one yet. I read something else. I saw something else you had sent me. Did you send that this evening? Where did you send it to? Instagram? I still don't see it. Last thing I got from you, Garrett, was about that great big giant fish that guy caught in the. I can't remember which river he was in now, but over on the west coast. I don't see it, Garrett. I don't see anything new from you that has something about AI in it. So I guess the answer to that is no. Oh, my phone. Well, I'd have to look and see. I don't know, honestly. I'll look at it though. I don't know if I want to touch it. AI. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm kind of afraid of it. Not in the true sense that they're going to take over, but I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how safe that stuff is as far as our information, and not that we're hell, not that we got any secrets anymore. Anyway, bad storm coming. Hurry up, Doug. Jacket. That sturgeon was amazing. I've seen some really big ones. They are prehistoric, Garrett. That's why they look that way. They're actually a leftover species. And there's several fish out there in the world. This is a better Saturday morning topic, but I'll tell you because you're never there. Um, there are several fish species in the world that are still very from the later Pliocene era. Mark could probably tell us exactly when it was, but um, those sturgeon, garfish, the coelacanth, which they thought was extinct for millions of years, and now they've found them off the coast of Africa near Madagascar. So there's a few things still around that are left over from long time ago. What's interesting about the gars are they still have an air sac type breathing system. They've got gills, but they're not true. They can't get all their oxygen from the water like most fish do, so they have to surface gulp air and go back under. No worries if you don't want to, but I'm testing it. Oh, so we don't know if this is even really you then. It can write essays, respond to arguments or assignments, and can teach you things, language, write a poem. That's why the writers are on strike and worried, Garrett. Oh, Diana, wouldn't that be good? As long as AI keeps sending you the checks. Kidding, Brenda. Sicking. Oh, that's good, Doug. Yeah, unless you got a storm flag, I wouldn't have left it out. I see people that do that sometimes, and that's always bothered me a little bit. You're not supposed to leave them up at night either, unless you got them lit. They have a light on them. If you want to go by the true laws of the flag, but I see a lot of people that leave them up and think and they think they're pretty patriotic. They'd shoot you if you burned it. So yeah, I hope you don't. Is it that bad, Doug? Well, good for you. Not many people do when they have it at their house. That's good for you. Just out of curiosity, do you have military family background or? But most time, the guys I know that are treated that respectfully usually there's more to it, or a little more to it. I'm sure Brenda's heard me fuss about that though. Places that have them flagged, they're battered, torn all to hell, and maybe not be lit or left up at night in the dark. I know because I used to complain about it when I'd see it driving up and down the interstate and stuff. That's good. How long ago was your uncle in the Navy, Doug? We talked. Well, I don't know your age, so I don't know how far back you go. Well, good, Mike. I don't know how you guys. I don't know how you guys act or treat a flag. What is that flying out of that heart? Those look like little bees or wasps. I think most countries have a certain amount of respect for the flags. I don't know if they all get quite as excited as some Americans do, but I don't know if they have the flag etiquette that we have established. 1950s, your pap was in the army. Well, oh, okay. Well, thank you. Well, I'm sure we owed him or owe him a debt of gratitude for that. I was just watching something about World War II on the TV machine there. It amazes me that there's still things you see nowadays because of research and people are able to do it. The things they uncover, I'm not talking about hidden things that were kept secret, although some of them were initially because. But videos and photographs and movies that keep coming out about the Second World War, and some things about the first one. There was a lot of information lost about that. I think some of that sometimes Korea was different. It got more publicity, and then Vietnam came along down here, and I think it got so much publicity. People were like my family; they were sitting in front of the TV every night eating dinner, and the news was on, and Walter Cronkite was telling us all about the war news. And after a while, I think that changed people's minds a lot about that war. Or at least I think it had something to do with it. Voices of Liberty in Epcot. Oh, didn't stand up or remove their hats when they sang the anthem. Mm-hmm. That happens. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree. I'm trying to be neutral. But my mother, Brenda's grandmother was Jehovah's Witness, and they didn't salute the flag or take their hat off. Or I doubt very seriously that they stood because they believed they didn't worship anything higher than God. At least that's how it was written, and so they didn't. That's why they didn't donate blood or say the Pledge of Allegiance either. And that went to court. So the Supreme Court ruled on that. Oh, thanks, Brenda. Brenda's not cooking these days, by the way, so she's going to talk about great food. You can request a flag that was flown at Parliament. The wait list is 152 years. I think they need to put up some more flagpoles, Diana. That help that problem. I got a flag when my father passed away, Air Force. Well, that's cool, Garrett. I would say I got one when my dad passed away, and I did. But I gave it to my brother because I felt like he'd been taking care of Dad because he lived nearby, and I just felt like I should give that to him. So I did. What did Doug say? That's sad that lots of people don't know, though, especially tourists. That's true. Oh, that's true, Diane. And I've often wondered about that. I mean, when you go into a sporting event in other countries, do they all do the national anthem? Do they have a prayer? Do they all stand up and take their hats off, put their hands on their hearts, or that sort of thing? I mean, I don't know. I've often wondered what the Russian hockey players think when every game we play the national anthem or "Oh Canada." They probably have less anxiety about it in Canada maybe than they do down here. But I've often wondered about that. I mean, they're over here playing hockey, but maybe their hearts are still in Mother Russia. I've been thinking about getting an American flag to put up next to my Canadian flag mounted on my house. You know what, Mike? I would be curious. I'd like to, because if here's a scenario: if you're in America and you fly both flags, the American flag, by etiquette again, should be higher than the Canadian flag because it's not here. It's a visiting flag, if you will. State flags are the same way here. If you have a state flag, an American flag, and say a business flag, because some do, the American flag always goes on top, then the state flag, and then the TVA flag, for example. And so I wonder if Canada has things like that. I mean, I don't know, and I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to, I don't know how to say that. I'm certainly not trying to be arrogant about that. I just wondered if they do, because I've often wondered if some countries don't seem to put quite as much weight on that, and then some seem to put as much, maybe even more. They change the flag at the Peace Garden every day too. Not sure why. Huh? Probably just so they can do that, Diana. If they can give them away to people that, or to who knows, maybe dignitaries that might ask for a flag, or maybe they do. Maybe that's how flags get assigned to funerals, military funerals, and things. Mike says we have the same thing here. Canadian flags are. Well, that's what. Okay, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to back up and say, but well, that's probably the way it should be. I mean, that's your home country, and I don't think that's in any way disrespectful for the other. It's certainly not something to start a fight over. What about prayer, Mike? Do you guys or anybody up there that's been out of the country to a soccer match, Doug, maybe, or I don't even know if you're a soccer guy, but I just wonder if they do that. I mean, we do that here, and that's been controversial at times, but it seems to happen pretty much everywhere now, and I don't hear much about it. Professional games, I can't swear hockey still does it, but I think they do. I think they did last time I went to the Predators. That'd be interesting, Diana, to find out, how that work, what they do with those government flags like that, if they're changing them that often, where they're going, because there's bound to be. And who knows, maybe they give them to provinces so they can use them when theirs get worn out or something. I think it's kind of funny, and probably says something about our culture when you hear about somebody that's put up a big giant flagpole now and they're flying the biggest American flag ever made, and they've got it out in front of their place, and they're like, bragging about it like, mine's bigger than yours. I mean, there will be a limit to that, I suppose. You can only make a flag so big. Good one, Mike. Doug says, when I played baseball in high school, our coach couldn't pray with us. But when I played American Legion ball, our coaches did pray with us. That's because American Legion wasn't funded by the state or the government. One of the reasons you're not supposed to do it in schools is that they receive federal funding, and the federal government doesn't want to play favorites in that regard. People get offended by that down here, and they think that's not. Hey, Dave, welcome in. And they think that's inappropriate, but that's part. I think that's part of it. The way it was, I know a lot of schools that maybe it's not legal to have like the whole school shut down and have prayer, but they do it a lot with clubs and other things, and they're welcome to do it. They're not. People say we've taken the prayer out of school. We only took the institutionalized prayer out of schools. We haven't taken it all out. And they still, and in fact, they still had prayers at like the kids' high school football games and stuff. Well, I kind of, I'm sure faith-based schools do too. That's a good point. But I kind of think that's where it belongs, in churches. I mean, that's what it's all about. Anybody's always welcome to bow their head or go sit behind the bleachers and say a prayer, but I don't think people should be made to say a prayer or made to feel bad if they don't feel the need or want to. I'll probably get hate mail for that, but that's just how I feel about it. International language, again, just the swear words. Brenda says, when I was in high school, I wrote a letter to request a flag that was flown over the Capitol, and we received it at the high school. Well, Miss Brenda, I don't know if I might remember that. I bet you did that for the FFA. Yeah, FFA, didn't you? See, I think there's different ways of getting flags from places like that for groups. I don't know if I could write and ask for one, and get one, but I got one, so. Oh, I know some of that too, Mike. I've learned that along the way. So we've thrown this little topic out here around the floor, and it's bouncing around. So how do you guys feel about prayer at ball games and hockey matches and things like that? Does that a place for it to be institutionalized like it is here? At least it is back here. Don't know about California or not. And I mean, should it matter? I know a lot of people feel very strongly about it. And I can't say they're entirely wrong. I think sometimes they miss the point of why they've tried to control or limit it a little bit. And the other thing that does bother me about it is, at least in this part of the country, and I'd be willing to bet just about more than just the South, you never hear a prayer from any other religion. It's always the Christian-based faith that give prayers before games. And in fact, I heard a telling story, and I've mentioned this somewhere else, but they did an interview in Texas when they had passed a ruling about prayer at football games. And of course, a lot of people were up in arms, and some of the players and some of the different people were. Some of the students were. And they asked a young lady what she thought about it. She said they should have prayer before every ball game. And the reporter asked her what she thought about, well, what if we didn't have say from the Baptist church downtown? What if we had a Hindu religious person come in and give a prayer, or even a Muslim? And she said, that's fine. She said, they can come in and give one as long as the Christian can go after them and kind of, smooth that back over. So they were still putting one over the other. And that's the other reason they took them out of schools. I mean, it was, and sometimes it goes too far. But gift giving and a lot of other things have been affected by that same rule, because if you've got 4 Muslims in a class, or maybe 4 Jewish folks in the class, kids, and you're exchanging gifts, they may not be participating in that. And if they're young, they may not understand why, or the other kids may not understand why, and it becomes uncomfortable. And if you care about how they feel, then you got to figure that out. I mean, how you're going to deal with that. It's not practiced in the populated places of California. So like an LA football game, they're probably not doing a prayer before the game. If you come back here and you go to a NASCAR race event, you're going to hear a prayer right before the race. I guarantee it. No matter what city you're in. They changed our Lord's Prayer with our Canadian anthem song. They changed our Lord's Prayer with our Canadian anthem song around to be more friendlier with other religions. I wasn't very happy about that. Well, I don't see the need to do that, but I mean, that's kind of different. But I personally think prayer has its place. I think trying to make everybody of every denomination try to say the same prayer at functions is not really the thing to do. Yeah, I see that. People want to go out, and I think when we were in school, were we in school when this all started? I know there was a Bible club that used to, maybe this was, you know what? This was somewhere a friend of mine works. There was a group within the group, call them a club or call them just a group, but they'd go out every morning on coffee break or before work started, and they would stand around the flagpole and pray. Not sure if that was significant because of the flag or not. I mean, I think anybody who wants to pray should be allowed to do so anywhere. I just don't. I think it gets more complicated when you got children with mixed religions and you're trying to figure out how to make it fair for everybody. If you can make it fair for everybody, I guess I'm all for it. It's about time that Americans realize that we are not all white, that we come in every different shade of brown and come in very different languages, and in every different religion we are a melting pot. I don't disagree. Diana said we have huge Middle Eastern, Asian, and African population here, so too many different religions for prayer at public events. And that's one of the points I was trying to make, Diane, and I got behind the curve on that because I got to talking about the government side of that thing. But to me, this is the important reason why they've tried to figure out how to do it. Hey, Tina, welcome in. Carol says, we have been a melting pot since the beginning, and we will continue to be. And Miss Carol says, I live in a very diverse area. A short 5 to 10 minute quiet time every day is good. Those who wish to pray silently may do so. Those who don't may meditate or just take a few moments of peaceful quiet. I think that's respectful. Do they practice that in from grades in school, like from your grades on up to the higher grades? Do you know, Carol? Yeah, Tim got a new hairdo, if you want to call it a do. It was on. I told Brenda if she didn't like it, if it got too short, I think she thought it might be a little too short, we could just hog it all off and I'd just start new. Mike said something. What did Mike say? Mike, I missed it. Mike, I don't like the idea of changing established prayers either. I just don't think prayers belong in public events. Well, that's kind of the stance I have, but I agree with the prayers. I don't see why they would go in and change an established prayer. Now, with that said, let me throw this out there. There are a lot of different versions of the Bible, and some of them are different. So I guess it depends on what you're reading. Some don't read anything but the King James, but there's a multitude of other versions out there that, new text or new. I don't remember all the names now, but I mean that was even going on when we were going to church as kids. So I know some things are different. I mean, there used to be an argument in church when you were saying the Lord's Prayer, whether you should say, and I forgive those who trespass against me. I can't remember exactly how that went. Or whether you should say that, forgive all my debtors, and something about debtors. Anyway, there was two different versions of that. I could say the whole thing and I could tell you exactly. Anyway, that I can remember people arguing about that in church, whether it should be debtors or trespassers. So, I can just imagine what would happen if they decided to change it and put other words in it, other names. What did Brenda say? We do have quiet time, at least up to the 5th grade. Okay. Why can't I move that? Oh, because I'm behind. Tina says, I think we should be able to practice any religion in the public square, but we should respect everyone's beliefs. Amen, sister. Well, I agree, Tina. I mean, I never understood it, but I've seen people discuss that heatedly. And some churches, you didn't dare not read it that way. And I mean, that was, you got to remember where I live, and where we grew up. I personally do pray, but I never want to be part of our public schools. Well, Brenda, she means it generally in public. That's a term. Well, I mean, cities used to have a public square. That used to be a common thing, and that's where the term came from, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just basically saying if you should be welcome to be religious in public, as long as you're not forcing it on other people or trying to, whatever Tina said. And we should respect others' beliefs. A lot of that goes on down here. I'll be honest. In small towns and country places, they really do. They really do get pretty rough. I remember walking through campus in the late '90s when I was finishing up school. Every once in a while, this group of, I don't know if they were Baptists. I don't know if it was a Southern Baptist Convention or what group it was, but they would come to UT, and they moved around to all universities in the state, I think. But they would come to UT, and they would pick one of the busiest intersections on the campus, and they would put one or two brethren on each corner, and they would start praying out loud, just as loud as they could, and handing out New Testaments for anybody that wanted one. And then there was another group that would stand 15 or 20 feet from them on a sidewalk, and they would stand there and say the god awfulest things to the young women on school campus that I honestly couldn't believe the things I heard from the mouths of these religious people who were trying to convert there on the sidewalk, but they were just insulting people right and left. I mean, it was horrible. And saying things that were really out of place in the public square. My wife said, I used to pray on the interstate. Mine sounds like the Lord moved that car the way he's going too slow. I don't think that's the same thing, Brenda. That's a prayer, but not sure. When did I hear recently? I'm not sure how. There was a show we were watching where there was a minister. I don't think it was Father Brown, but they were talking about he wasn't sure. Oh, actually, maybe it was from the movie Patton. Patton wanted he wanted his chaplain to write a prayer and give him a prayer that would be good to make better weather for battle. And the chaplain looked at him and shook his head. He said, I'm not sure the good Lord's going to accept, really take a prayer like that with good faith. He said, you write a good prayer, it'll work. So, and later on, he said he believed he did. I've lost my place here. Mike said, ran into this kind of same issue at work. They wanted to put a chapel in the workplace. Then some of the other religions wanted to put their own type of chapel inside the workplace. What happened, Mike? How did that go? Maybe you've already said. Now in modern times, it's anywhere, including social media. I think we could learn a lot by listening to others and respecting others' freedom. Tina, one of the things that's always bothered me about disrespecting others' religions and saying things is that most of the people I know don't know anything about the religion they're condemning or ridiculing. And if they take the time to learn about them, then either they might not feel that way, or maybe they could sit down and have a talk and learn a little bit more about it. So they came up with a solution, said no chapels of any religion in the workplace. I mean, what do you do, Mike? I don't know what else you could do to please everybody. I mean, you really don't ever please everybody. I wonder why Mike, they couldn't put in a space that could be used by any religion whenever need be. But I'm going to guess religious symbolism and that sort of thing, and then accommodating who went where, when, and I'm sure there were a lot of reasons. Good question, though. If you've got an answer for that, Mike, I'd love to hear it. I wouldn't have to call it anything particular except maybe a mindful area. That's a thought. That's the problem. People try to say, oh, if you want that religion, you have to have this one. So instead, they get rid of all of them. That's sad. But what would your answer be, Tina? People should be exposed to others. They're a lot more kind. I agree. So I'm not thinking you're saying to each his own so much as you are a commonplace. Maybe I'm misreading you. Learn about others' religions, cultures, etc. is a great way to understand others. And I'm sure I've told this story before, but I thought at the time, I thought one of the greatest gifts we gave our children as they were growing up was the exposure to all the different cultural things and religions and different things by being exposed to so many people because we were in the university town and their friends could be from anywhere. Kelly had friends from China. She had friends from Korea. Jennifer had friends from a couple of different places the same. I mean, they met a lot of different people from a lot of different places, and I think learned a good bit that way. People should be exposed to others. We already read that one. Truth to learn about others' religions, cultures is a great way to understand. Maybe we did that one too. Most hospitals have an area, they call it a peaceful place. Yeah, and I've seen them call it a chapel also, and I don't know if that still is considered the same. But yeah, I've seen that, Tina. I've seen hospitals. They usually do. You're right. They usually have a place like that for people to go sit and be alone if they feel the need to, pray or just try to be thoughtful and get away from what's going on. But here's the kicker, Mike. I know of some non-Catholic people that send their kids to a Catholic private school and they do Lord's Prayer literature there. Well, yeah, I bet they do. What do you mean by literature, Mike? It's part of the curriculum. I need to read more before I speak. It's part of the curriculum at the Catholic private school, and they don't complain. They send their kids there, and everyone gets along. You learn something new. I don't understand. Oh, I guess that's you understand what the problem is. It's interesting. Although those two, it depends on what the other religions are, I suppose. I mean, if they're just Protestant, then, they're still both Christian schools. Hey, Francisco, welcome in. Hope you've had a good day down in Southern California. And we hadn't talked about baseball in a long time. We should talk about baseball some evening. That, you know what, Mike, that came up. Um, you got me thinking. There was something recently, either in this state or Florida, that I read about. It was in the news or one of the news outlets, and they were discussing that very thing. No, well, close to that very thing. Um, it had to, but it might have been more about funding. Private schools, religious schools getting state funding, which I don't agree with, but they have figured out a way to get around that here, and they do it. And Brenda says, I heard someone say today that if you're a Christian, that you should also read other religious books as if you were going to convert so they could truly understand where we have a lot of same beliefs. Where'd you hear that? I mean, that's kind of out there. Mike says, our city's been on the news quite a bit. I'm surprised we didn't go national. Yeah, what's going on there? I'm not a good example. I'm a strong Protestant, and my husband is a very strong Catholic. Went to Catholic school and university. I don't think that should be a problem. I do know it is. Did he? I mean, question, Tina. I know this conversation's drifting a little bit, but when you and Chuck got married, if he was active in the Catholic Church, did he have to quit? Was he no longer allowed to do? I mean, they probably didn't run him off, but was he allowed to do certain things that maybe he did before? Because I knew a guy that was getting married. He was going to marry a Catholic woman, and it was important to her that their children be Catholic for all the various reasons and ceremonial purposes that are different in the Catholic Church. And the only way that the Catholic Church would allow her and her children to do that was if her husband converted to Catholicism before they got married. And that's what happened. Our city's been on the news quite a bit. I'm just surprised we haven't gone national with what's going on here. Sad day. Well, what's going on, Mike? Make it national and tell us about it, because I have not, unless you don't want to tell us where you live. I understand. Couple of dead bodies in our city, garbage dump. Whoa. And the government doesn't want to go dig them up to retrieve them. What? Couple of dead bodies in our city garbage dump. And the government doesn't want to go dig them up to retrieve them. How did they get there? It all comes down to money, and they're missing Aboriginals. Oh, they let you get married in the Catholic Church? Again, I'm surprised. I've heard that's not allowed either. And if we'd have had kids, we would have raised them Catholic, but I didn't have to convert. I guess that depends on which church you're at then. What priest or archdiocese or something like that you have to be. Mike, that is awful. I'd like to know more about that. Not to be a ghoul, although Brenda probably would, because she's into that kind of thing. I would like to know how they got there, because, in my opinion, if a funeral home, mortuary, or whatever they're called in Canada, if they deliberately did that somehow, then I would think they would be responsible, and they should have to dig them up and give them a proper burial. I mean, I'm assuming that they've not been able to find out where they were from or what tribe or. Now, I'm going to have to read about that, Mike. I'll have to try to look that up. In fact, I'm going to type something in right now so I don't forget. And suddenly I can't spell. found it. Oh, that happened. Oh, there's another one. So one happened back in April, or one happened before that, and now one happened in April. I have to wonder who's responsible for that, Mike. Have they said that yet? You're surprised there hasn't been a riot yet. Well, I kind of am too. Hey, Dean, what time is it? Oh, it's getting close to that time. Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm about to get a bit worn down here, but now Mike's got my attention, and I'd like to hear more about this story. Your husband's parents weren't both Catholic. That's interesting, Tina. I just remember how much this guy had to go through, and I know some of it was his wife because I know she was pushing him, but he told me, and we had conversations about it, and he told me that the priest had said these things cannot happen if she marries someone outside the Catholic faith, and he ended up converting, at least on paper, so that they could do that and get married in the church. And she had been divorced. That probably didn't help, I guess. She knows it. It's true, Tina. I mean, we're pretty strict. There are people pretty strict down here. I mean, if you're a Methodist and a Baptist, I don't think you're even allowed to do that down here. And they're both Protestants, so there you go. And neither one of the other two would want to marry a Presbyterian, I can tell you. Mike, I just found something about it. I'm going to read about that later. That's, yeah, I think Garrett's either been doing something else or he don't want to jump in there. How's that handled, Mike? In the U.S., if no one claims a body, the government has to do it. That's true. And they go into usually either a pauper's grave or a mass grave. No, a grave. And I don't know if we still mark them with a headstone individually or not. I know they have a record of it, so they can dig them up if they were to have to. Like this one of the bodies, Jimmy Hoffa. Wouldn't that be something, Doug? I don't think that Jimmy's he's in concrete. I don't think they'll dig him up soon, but someday they're going to tear that building down and they're going to find him. It does somewhat depend on the priest, but if I went in it pre-Cana, which was more about getting along and budgeting and stuff anyway. Interesting. Oh, yo, you're going to listen. Come on, Garrett. Step in there. Carol says, Tim, I haven't heard of that either. Catholics can marry other Christians in the church. It was probably the issue of one of the people being divorced. It's divorce issue. Well, I'm sure that was probably part of it. Since now I'm learning from other people that this is not uncommon in other places. I mean, I've known a lot of people that could. No, you said you got married in the Catholic Church, though, didn't you, Tina? I mean, I think they could have gotten married. The issue of them being married wasn't the thing, but she wanted to stay in the Catholic Church for her kids' upbringing and whatnot, and she wanted to be married in the Catholic Church. Well, to do that, they went through a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, he talked about it quite a bit until it all was over, and then actually he left and went to another company not long after that. So how that worked out in the long run, but he was telling us about it. That's just what I remembered from him. And again, like I said, it might have a lot to do with the priest, and then maybe it had something to do with the divorce. I'm sure some of that was. I know there was something. She had to go through something because of the divorce. I do know that because that was another topic of discussion. Doug's still here too. You got married in a hotel. Diana just said, I think I just heard Yeah, was that a rock or what did Diana just throw across the room at you? She probably said, Mike, you weren't supposed to say that. Interesting. I just know Anthony talked about, like I said, he told me all the things he had to do. He had to go to classes. He had to, I mean, I don't know, maybe that was conversion classes. I'm not sure, but he did get, christened or whatever in the Catholic Church, and they were able to get married, and their kids were able to grow up Catholic, and all the stuff that she wanted. I don't think it was that big a deal to him either way, but I guess it was to his wife, and maybe that's where in the rub lies. Maybe it was all about her wanting certain things done. If Tim and I had our way, we would not have gotten married in church. We wouldn't have. We wanted to get married out in the mountains, just small, and we actually had our wedding clothes already picked out. 2 flannel shirts and pairs and jeans and boots, hiking boots, and we were going to walk up someplace and get married and be done with it. Just a few people, and of course our parents heard of that, and our mothers heard about that idea, and they weren't going to have it. And so we ended up with way more people than I ever thought we would or wanted. It was all done in love, don't get me wrong. Oh, really, Mike? That's sweet. Was that the stupid truck, Diana? I was going to ask that too, Brenda. I was wondering about that. I mean, that's what it was for a long time. And I think that term probably came, I'm not sure, but I think that term came over with us from England. But stupid truck. Okay. That didn't have anything to do with it being a stupid truck, though, right? We're learning more about this. There might be a whole underlying story here, a theme. I'm going to keep notes so we can, in case there needs to be a book. Oh, and then Mike cried across the room, don't call the truck stupid. Stupid truck, stupid truck, stupid truck. And then I heard a glass break. Mike, it was a stupid truck. We're going to settle down, children. I don't want anybody hurt in here over wedding pictures. But Mike, I think that's kind of cool personally. I didn't have a truck when we got married. Did I? No, I didn't. Hell, I'm not. I guess we could have got married with the TR4, but that probably wouldn't have gone. We got married in December, so that probably wouldn't have worked out too well. The heater wasn't that great in it, and it was convertible, so that would have been a cold trip to our honeymoon suite. After our conversation's over, come on in and listen to fun stories to me. Guys, I welcome you all to leave in a minute. I am gonna have to cut it off here in a minute because if you've noticed, I'm really starting to wiggle because I'm really getting sore. So, it was a really nice photo of F-350 Power Stroke in the background, lifted 35s on her. Beauty, Mike. I bet you've even you've struck on something, Mike. You may be one of the few men that I've ever known that can take his wedding picture and mount it out above his toolbox in the garage or the bar, because all the guys are ever going to see is that pickup truck. They're going to walk in and say, oh, Mike, when did you have this F-350? Man, you're in like Flynn. You definitely are in the cool guys club. Good night, Doug. Thanks for coming in. See how nice I am? I let him invite the stupid truck to our wedding. Brenda says, my mother wouldn't stand for it. Neither would your dad. And mine probably would have fussed. I probably could have convinced dad, but maybe. But I could back then. But mom would have been a hard sell. In fact, mom, I'm quite sure would not have gone along with it. And there would probably gone years before we'd have spoken again. Possibly. Well, no, mom would have spoken to me, but she would never have let me forget it. I think. I don't know. They might have understood. Brenda and I made those plans before we were married. I mean, long before we were married, we'd already, because we were at that back then. We were going to have a station wagon. This is 4 SUVs and everything. We were going to have a station wagon, 2 St. Bernards, and that was no kids, and we were going to go our merry way. Oh, they did, didn't they? Damn, Brenda, I forgot about that. Did you let Diana be in the pictures of you and your truck? if Carol, if he placed her in the right place, and if he spoke to the photographer before the pictures, she could have been on one end or edge, and they could have cropped it for the garage shots. And nobody, I mean, Diana wouldn't have been in them. And I mean, that could have saved Mike a lot of trouble too, if you think about it. He wouldn't have had to explain why his wedding picture was in the garage, because nobody else would have known, and it would just be about him and his truck. Yeah, just 2 St. Bernards. Well, as opposed to 2 St. Bernards and 4 kids or something. Oh, you missed the conversation about Mike's wedding and his truck, Tina. Oh, that was I thought you meant Tommy Murray. No, yeah, that was your brother. Well, never mind. I was going to say your brother gets anything. Well, your brother gets whatever your brother wants. So that's, you were the daughter and you weren't supposed to get anything. That's Brenda who got the flag in her family. I started to ask that, see if anybody else knew what those rules were. But yeah, Mike, I think we changed our mind later. It probably wouldn't have been 2 St. Bernards, but it could have been 2 Huskies or 2 Malamutes or something along those lines. At least large to middle-sized dogs. And we ended up with, and instead we ended up with a little mixed pup dog about this big. Looked like a tiny. She looked like a tiny little Doberman Pinscher, but she was only, And her name was Pepper, and then we had for a while there with her. We had a Australian Shepherd, so it actually worked out good in that regard. But I mean, we did have dogs. We just didn't have the ones we thought we might have. The photographer humored him. She thought it was a stupid truck too. So Diana talked to the photographer before the shots. Mike, we're going to have to do a men's thing. I think it's time. I really do think it's time. Mark and I have discussed this already. If you're ever a fan of the Little Rascals, you know what I'm talking about. But I think it's time to reinstitute the He-Man Woman Haters Club, like the Little Rascals had. Then, all the guys can sit around, make jokes, make foul noises and laugh and giggle and, talk about guy things like pickup trucks, hunting dogs, a new shotgun. Well, if you can, things like that. How much wood your potbelly stove burns during the winter. The new chainsaw you got ordered down at the hardware store, but don't mention that because the wife don't know about it. I wish Mark was here tonight. He might have enjoyed this conversation. Your chicken sandwich was perfect. Oh, I'm glad yours was. Mine wasn't. Mine was okay too. All right, guys. Anybody else want to weigh in on the prayer in school question? We might do this again next week. So your homework is to, look up some of the history behind some of that, and let's see where it takes us. I am still working on the other project that I was working on before I disappeared. The She Girl Man Haters Club. Oh, I figured you had one of those already. Okay, I can be the other way around too. Yes, it can, Brendan. And wouldn't you know, it'd be my wife that came up with that smart answer. You men can go right ahead and have the He-Man Woman Haters Club. Pretty sure none of the women care. Diana, so you just went and ruined it. If we didn't know that, we'd think we were really getting away with something. Now we know. Not half as much fun if you know the women don't care one way or the other. In fact, you'd probably rather we were out of the house. But I think it's a good idea. Mike wants to volunteer Diana to come down here with you, Brenda, and work out the club rules. I missed the part about going somewhere for a girls' trip. Yeah, I'm gonna go, guys. I know we could probably go on with this, but I am hurting, so I would like to get up off the phone and off my derriere. And don't tempt me, Mike. You guys got to promise me that when we go off the air, you won't go get a divorce. Oh, look there, Diana. He says you can go down here and bring back another basset hound. I'll copy that in case you ever need that for evidence, Diana. Oh, Brenda's going to have the costumes ready. I know what that means. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the conversation. I'm serious. We might continue this. This could go a little deeper, and just see what happens with it. And I don't know. Maybe next week, if I feel like it, we can stay longer. I mean, it's totally up to me. But right now, I am a little bit sore. I've been working on this and some other things today. Researching. Tina's got me busy. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming in tonight. I appreciate it. I always do. Love you guys. Take care. Have a great rest of the week. I hope to see some of you on Saturday. So long.